Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, and thank you to everybody who's joining us either live or for the recorded session later on. We appreciate all of you. So, before we get started, let's say a few words about why we have started this Rescuing is Just the First Step series. I and my training associate Victoria are both very committed to rewards-based training, no matter where the animal is in their stage, be it they're looking for a home, they're in a foster home, or they're finally in their forever home. It's all about getting both the companion and their caretakers guidance to help them along so that they're both medically and behaviorally healthy. Today, we are going to be having Linda Green of Unidos Para Los Animales, also referred to as United for Animals. And she is located in Antigua, Guatemala. And I'm waiting for her to join us yet. There may be a little technical difficulties on her side, but hopefully she'll be joining us soon. If anybody came specifically because they know of Linda and her work and have questions ahead of time, I would love to hear them, and we can have them all prepped and ready for her. So feel free to go ahead and add those in the comments. If there are any questions that people have here in general about rescues and animal shelters and utilizing rewards-based training and the benefits we have from utilizing these techniques or anything, please feel free to give me a question. I would love to be able to fill some time while hopefully we wait for Linda and she joins us here soon. I will give you guys a little bit more of her bio so you can learn a little bit more about her if you're not sure who Linda is yet. So while Linda's been in Guatemala for, I want to say 12 years is what I have from my notes from when we were talking. And she had initially started by just sort of picking up animals along on the road as they came across them. Her and her co-founder of the rescue that she runs were also volunteering at a local rescue there. And obviously she's going to be telling the story better than I can, but they found that they felt that their work that they were doing, trying to help the rescue that was there, was sort of like they were just perpetuating animals coming in and not helping them to actually find homes or to decrease the animal population in general. So this is a big thing in the sheltering community also. So spay and neuter. So spay and neuter is one of the things that her rescue also focuses on, as well as helping people keep animals in their homes. Their goal is to not take in animals as much as they possibly can and help them where they are. So I really love that about her, and I can't wait to be able to talk about that more. We see here, we've got a great question. Here, I'm going to just pull her up. What kind of questions can rescues ask when interviewing for trainers? That is fabulous. So I would suggest that anybody who is looking for trainers, be it a rescue or a family who has a dog in their care, would be to look first on the About page. Go there, and that's going to give us a lot of really good intel. It's going to help us to be able to assess their education level and their credentials. Now, this is hard because it is a crazy alphabet soup out there, and you've got a lot of people who are putting up, I don't know if I would say smoke and mirrors, but some, yes, that are trying to make themselves sound better than perhaps that they skill-wise than they actually have. So I suggest anything that they have listed on their site as I received training and education from so-and-so institution or so-and-so person, Googling that and checking that out further. Looking at the memberships that they belong to, that when you belong to a membership, you are telling people that you are supporting that membership and association and what they stand for. So looking for those sort of things to assist with, oh, these people believe it's okay to do this. These people are committed to this sort of training with animals and with people, because a big part of training is always also about us people. So looking at that to see what is on there. We're looking for more than just I've lived with animals for all my life and I had a dog once. You know, that's great. I'm glad and that can be helpful, but people need more than just that. There's plenty of things that I've lived with all my life that I have no idea how to fix or help. So interviewing them, I think the good question would be to say, what is going to happen to my dog if they get it wrong? And ask for details. What's going to happen if my dog does not sit? What is going to happen if my dog growls? Looking for details there of how they respond. And we're going to be looking for things like we're going to help guide them, utilizing a food lure, utilizing a hand signal. We don't want to use anything that is aversive or physical, or that we would be intimidating towards the animals to get them to quote unquote comply. We don't want to be utilizing any of those techniques. So good question. I hope that helped to answer it. I'm obviously a little off my game here without my guest. So I love that question. How about, is anybody here that works with a rescue? Do you have trainers that you work with explicitly? Do you have a referral list? I know that when I worked at a shelter, that we were able to give out a list of trainers in the area, but we weren't really able to, as staff, to, I guess you could say, whittle that down. So it was basically like we were acting like the phone book, I feel like. And we also, I think, I felt pressure that we had to include whatever company or donor was providing funds to us. We also had to include their information. And sometimes that was tough, like Invincible Defense Companies was one that we had to. But so I found that tough. I feel like a lot of times when I go to look and research the different rescues and shelters that my clients have adopted their animals from, that there isn't very much of an about page on those places themselves. And I'm not always seeing mission statements, which I think are really important. And that is something that I find really important and special about Linda's group that she works with, is that part of her and her co-founders' experience, a negative experience with another rescue, helped them to decide what exactly they wanted to do and how they envisioned being able to help the animals in their area, and setting down guidelines for themselves to help so that they didn't accidentally end up like this other rescue. And I feel that's very important, because it is so hard to say the word no when somebody comes to you and they have an animal and I need help, I need this, I can't keep this animal anymore. And when you're at your max capacity of what you can give quality wise as a shelter or rescue, and you say, I just can't take this animal in, that's really hard. And I feel like that is how some of these rescues or shelters for that matter, get in over their heads, and then the care starts to deteriorate, as does the ability of staff and volunteers that they're able to give and provide because they're burnt out. Excuse me. So we've still got some people watching, which I appreciate. Is anybody here? Are you guys volunteering for a shelter or a rescue? Are you part of a shelter or rescue where you are part of the committee or the board? Or did you found a rescue? I would love to hear from people's experiences and raising your hands, and we can hear from where everybody is located and the rescues and shelters that they're supporting. Ooh, Victoria asked another great question. Thank you, Victoria. Okay. In your opinion, what is the number one thing rescue should be focusing on? Behavior, medical, or enrichment? That's a tough one because I honestly don't think it is just one. It's all of these. I feel like it is when an animal comes in, the first thing that you must do is triage. What is the most immediate thing that this animal needs? We cannot work on behavior if they're not feeling well. Then when they're feeling well, we need to be able to help them with their behavior so that then they can find and stay in a home. If we are just focusing on medical and then getting them out, we're basically passing the buck with the behavior stuff. And so I think that's a really tough part. And enrichment comes along with supporting behavior, because one of the things are that, if you're going to be taking the time to provide these animals with the training that they need, that means that they're going to maybe not necessarily be in have a big, beautiful yard to run around in. So they're going to need extra enrichment with some of the more limited space that they have. But enrichment is just as important for our dogs that do have homes. I find over and over again how much it positively impacts behavior and how it really helps dogs overall. I've had 3 different separation anxiety clients this week where we really found that their dogs would do better if they had more of the physical and mental stimulation through the day. When they didn't, because parents weren't feeling well, or it wasn't such great weather out, then the dogs it's like they have more energy to put into all the way things from feeling anxious to being naughty. But when they have had more enrichment, it really takes out the energy that they have to spend on those things. Not that it fixes those things by itself, that would be nice. That would just be like saying, here's a pill, it'll fix everything. But it is full circle. It all helps each other. So I'm big one saying triage. Figure out what they need most immediate help with, then go on to the next, then go on to the next. So that is a fabulous question. I feel like many times the medical is getting taken care of right away, and then enrichment and behavior is getting left off. And it's because many at that point have run out of resources. But I feel that it is something that as a rescue or shelter that you need to truly take into consideration and as part of your budget. If your goal is to help animals, which is of course is your goal, which is why you're doing this, then you can't just help them help them halfway. They have a long life and we want them to be happy. We don't want them just to be, okay, you don't have heartworm and you've got your vaccinations. We want them to be feeling happy and safe and confident in our human world. And that takes work. So, okay. Awesome. Nicola, Fred, hi, welcome, guys. Do either of you guys volunteer or foster or have worked with a rescue? I would love to hear that. Or if your dogs came from rescues, that would be wonderful. Ooh, I think we've got Linda. Yay. Okay, hang on a second, guys. Hi. Okay, we're about to, let's see here. Linda, can you hear me? She's still setting up yet. Okay. We'll give her a second here. I'll just keep talking. It looks like Linda is muted. She'll be able to, I think it's just on my side because you're not in here yet. You give me a thumbs up when you're ready to join me, Linda. Yeah, okay, got a thumbs up. All right. Here she is. Hi.
Hi. Am I late?
Yeah. That's okay. I was rolling with it. Victoria was asking some great questions as we went along.
Oh my God. How to blow my first yeah, I think so. My first Facebook Live. How many now? I was 20 minutes early.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We're glad that you can join us now.
Okay. All right.
Nicola says hi.
Hi, guys. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We were just talking about, we were just kind of, Victoria's asking us some great questions about what to prioritize, behavior, medical enrichment. And let's see here, I was asking who had volunteered at shelters or rescues. And Fred, you'd fostered your dog Boris for about 6 weeks and then adopted him. Oh, that's fabulous. And Nicola, both of your dogs were from a rescue. Awesome. Okay, so we're caught up there now. So let's get started. I was giving them a little bit of a taste of your personal experiences and why you started your rescue or helped to co-found your rescue. So I would love to hear from you because I told them that I'm not going to be able to give this as well as obviously you can. So can you share your personal experiences that led you to co-founding the rescue that you now also help to run? What spurred you on to say we can do this and this is how we're going to do it?
Well, seeing so many animals that were sick, hurt, injured, and picking them up one by yourself is really hard. You fill your house up really quickly, and it's hard on your relationship. And it's lonely stuff. So I ended up meeting my co-founder Terry in a vet clinic with each of us with a rescue animal on our lap, and we just decided that we thought we could work better if we supported an existing rescue. So we went and started working with a woman who had a facility, and she has about 400 dogs, and it's pretty much a concentration camp for dogs and cats. And we poured our heart, soul, and a lot of money into trying to help it, and it was not going in a good direction. It just got worse and worse. So we separated out and we said, let's form our own little rescue organization. And what we could probably do is move puppies out of that situation, because if the puppies grew up there, they weren't adoptable. So we started taking puppies and getting them healthy and working with them to socialize them. And we were sending them to a woman in San Francisco who had also been down and seen this place and was trying to get dogs out as well. So that's kind of how we started sending dogs to the Bay Area. And over the years, we've just built a huge adoption network in the Bay Area. We've got about 600 or 700 dogs in the Bay Area right now, adopted out.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah. So obviously, you can't adopt your way out of this problem. So we did start with spay and neuter with a veterinarian that was trying to help this large rescue. And he would come down 2 or 3 times a year, and he does about 30 surgeries a day. He's quite incredible. And he'd come and donate his time and his materials and everything. And we do 5 solid days of spay and neuter. So that was good. Took a long time to get the community behind that. We used to have to bribe people with bags of dog food and stuff to bring their animals. But that was where we started. And then we filled our houses, like I said, with our rescues and couldn't find homes for them. So we used an abandoned building for a while. And then when my partner and her husband bought this piece of property up on the mountain, she gave us the front part basically to use for the rescue. So we built a really lovely little outdoor gardeny sort of rescue up there. And we don't work with the 400 dog rescue anymore. We can't. But my own board members bring in enough puppies and dogs, and we get enough animals just sort of as a byproduct of our spay and neuter clinics.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that. We call it a rehabilitation center. Really, it's not really a shelter. We're working with all the animals that are up there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Puppies, we don't keep up there because they don't get enough stimulation. They don't get enough exposure. So puppies get fostered, and since I usually don't have enough fosters, they're usually fostered with me.
Wow. So, yeah, Victoria here says rescue is a never ending conveyor belt, but spay and neuter and owner support is where it's at. Yeah. Yeah.
So we came to that conclusion pretty quickly. We've amplified our spay and neuter program as we've gotten donations. All of our donations really come from our adopters and from people in the US because Guatemalans don't donate, period, and they don't donate to animals. So yeah, we now are doing 100 animals per clinic, and we do at least 1 to 2 clinics a month.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing the spay and neuter, and then the education. You've got to educate the kids.
Right.
You've got to get them,
Yeah.
get them young.
Right. And how do you decide? I know one of the things we talked about is that you don't have that traditional setup where you have like your rescue. You said that you kind of refer to it more as a rehabilitation, but you have space for so many dogs, and then you have staff, which
Yeah.
many rescues don't. So I'd love to hear why you did that and how that's helped you.
Well, when we started bringing in dogs, it was just Terry and me, and we both worked full time. So you can't just warehouse the dogs, and so we needed somebody to go in and walk them. So from the very beginning, we had a staff person coming in during the day. Our first facility was an abandoned building in the center of Antigua, and this was all a learning thing for us. Big surprise, if you leave dogs alone at night in a building, they're going to bark and the neighbors aren't going to be happy. So we ended up hiring a homeless man to basically give him a place to sleep, and he would be with our dogs at night. I mean, we really started on a very low thing. Mm-hmm. But when we moved up the mountain, Terry and John live up there. So they're there all the time. Not in the rescue section, but they're up there. And we've always just used staff. We found that volunteers just aren't reliable enough. They don't show up, or, we can't leave the welfare of the dogs to volunteers. And the care that they give is spotty. And we're very particular about good care for our dogs. So we've had our one employee for almost 10 years. And we were lucky enough to be able to get a second employee in 2018, and she's now in the academy. And we have a third employee that we hired last year, just before the pandemic, really. And she covers when my employees are on vacation or holidays, and she does admin with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The rest of us are all.
The admin work is so important. And I think that was always something that I struggled with when I was working at a shelter was all the volunteers wanted to walk dogs or cuddle cats, but nobody wanted to help with the cleaning, the laundry, the follow-up calls to help get animals back home and that sort of thing because it's not the glamorous fun part. And for most people that's what they do, on a daily basis sort of thing. And they don't want to do that grunt work. They want to go, cuddle with the dogs and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so staff. So you guys are completely dependent upon donations then to help pay for staff.
Yeah.
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 So
We ran for years just on Terry and me donating the money. We just put the money in. But we're now big enough that we can afford, salaries are very low here comparatively. So it's not, and we don't pay rent. So, it's doable.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Got it. So one of the things that you put a lot of time into with your dogs is the training and the socialization for the puppies and adults too. What made you decide that so early on in the game? Because you haven't always been a trainer, you
No.
decided to get into the training aspect later, but what helped you to make those decisions on putting that emphasis on training?
Well, sending up dogs from this 400 dog, hoarding facility, and then, hearing from people who adopted them, how much struggle they had, it was heartbreaking. And, sending a dog that isn't ready to go. I was very much that they had to be crate trained. They're going to be in a crate and flying. That has to be a scary experience for a dog, and you need to prepare the dog as well as possible. So from the very beginning, I was pushing training.
Mhm.
But then I found out rapidly that I really didn't know as much as I thought I did. And when I get some more complicated issues from adopters, I didn't feel like I was competent to be able to give them the guidance they needed. And there's just so much bad information out there, you know. So I knew I had to up my game and get a really solid education. And so that's when I went and applied to the academy and got the best education I can ever. I mean, what an amazing education that is.
Yeah.
And I keep learning, but I taught my staff. My staff is basically all taught on the academy program. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And I think that's the important part is that once you have that solid foundation and that education, you truly can start teaching others so that they can become part of part of the good that you're putting out there. Because with so many dogs and so much education that you're trying to put out there, it's really overwhelming trying to do it all as one person. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's nice to have. And what I personally love about the academy are the vetted plans. These are plans that have been tested over and over and over again and work. And we track, when they don't work and know where to make splits and make plans easier. And rather than having to try and come up with it all on your own. So
And
that's
then the consistency of it, one of my staff can be working on sits or some behavior with one of the dogs, and it's her day off the next day. Well, we have a little laminated check sheet, and so instead of having to write a whole long thing about where the dog is, she'll just go, sit plan A, step 5, 4 out of 5, and they know exactly where to take off from that. So we all speak the same language, and it's just efficient. It's really efficient and fast.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And you need
Yeah.
efficiency everywhere you can get it. For sure.
And consistent, it's consistent for the dogs. So it's easy for the dogs. They're always working for the same criteria, and they learn a lot faster, I think.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, let's see here. So when you go to do placement for dogs, it sounds like you have a like a foster to adopt situation set up, which I have come across with some rescues. And can you explain why you chose that model, as well as how you're making decisions on what's going to be a best fit for a family? Because vast majority of these dogs, you're like you said, you're flying,
Yeah,
and you that's got to be make it a kind of a tough situation, because it's like, what if we make the wrong decision and this isn't the good
yeah,
fit for the family and they don't get to meet the dogs beforehand. So I feel like you've
exactly.
got some extra hurdles than most people do in rescue and sheltering.
Yeah, absolutely. That's we're really small and we don't have a lot of animals. And since COVID, we've got almost no ability to get animals up. But we wouldn't place probably more than 100 dogs and dogs and puppies a year, maybe 80 in the States. So it's not a huge number. So we can make it really personalized. So pre-COVID, people would apply by Pet Finder, and then they fill out our application. We screen the application, and then we book a Zoom call with them. And we usually Zoom with everybody, even if we're probably going to decline them. We want to talk to them because it takes time and effort to fill out an application, right? And a lot of times we don't have the right dog for them, so we'll ask them if they want to stay on a waiting list. Many times they do. And then we'll call them or contact them when we get a dog that we think is a good fit. So it's real personalized. We spend about an hour on a Zoom call with the family and we ask and answer questions. And then if we do think that it's a good fit for both parties, we will send the dog on a trial basis. So that takes the pressure off the dog and the family, that they have to say, oh, we've just made a 15-year commitment on a dog we haven't met. And it takes the pressure off the dog to let the dog decompress and settle in. And during that trial period, we spend quite a lot of time contacting the family and just giving them support. How is it? How's everything going today? Just quick notes, and we'll send them support, information, handouts. I'll do Zooms to do training support if they need it. And then pre-COVID, I did a lot of referring to academy people in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some trainers that have really stepped up and helped if we need them. But
If you
usually
felt,
the animals.
I was to say, if you felt that the family needed a little bit more hand on one-on-one, or if there were
Yeah.
some more difficult problems arising that would benefit from that.
Yeah. Mostly it's if they want someone in person,
Okay.
right? Rather than doing remote. Because now we're all doing remote, but
Right.
after COVID, it was kind of weird.
But I like to think, so you've been doing Zoom before it was cool.
Yes. I wish I'd bought stock.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
So yeah.
Do you find that your adopters are needing a lot of post-adoption support, or do you feel because you've put training and front loaded a lot of that stuff that you're not needing as much as maybe you did prior?
It's very individual. Sometimes I think that we give so much prep and so much pre-training, and these dogs are coming in so ready that sometimes I think my adopters want more hand holding because they think, okay, can you, like, she's 3 steps from Lassie, can you make her Lassie for me next week, kind of thing. Sometimes I think they have some unrealistic expectations, but usually no, they're not serious problems because I don't send up dogs that have serious behavior problems.
Hmm.
I just don't do it. They're going to cause problems with the family. I'm going to have to do some emergency triage with trainers. I might have to bring the dog back, and I've had to bring a few dogs back, and that's hard on the dog, and it's expensive, and it's just we don't want to do that if we can. So I don't send up dogs that I think are going to cause problems.
Hmm. So,
Period.
yeah. Um, do you, and so it sounds like from experience, you've been able to figure out sort of what are good animals that are going to take the trip, because a flight is pretty scary, and be able to then acclimate into, it sounds like the majority of your dogs are going into the Bay Area, which is
Yeah.
not quiet country. So it's city living.
Well, Antigua and the area we work in isn't quiet country either. So
Yeah.
that's not, we actually are busier and louder probably than anywhere they're going to be unless they were like in the Castro or something. Um, yeah. I definitely look at a dog. If it sounds sensitive, I wouldn't put it in the inner city. I'd look for suburban or, up in Napa or, we do try to really look at the issues that the dog might have. If the dog's really kind of on the shy side, I look for more rural placement,
Mhm.
off-leash hiking, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And I'm real careful with families and kids, real careful.
So if you find that a dog is not suitable to be adopted out, what I guess some people in the rescuing and shelter community might define as marginal, and I would define marginal as above what the average family would be able to take on from a time and resource to learn how to help them and help the animals be part of the family and the human world. What do you guys do? Do you utilize the property at that point? Do you adopt out or try to look for local placement?
Those are my hardest cases. And of course, when you bring in an animal, especially if it's sick or injured, you have no idea what you're getting, right? Yeah, the older puppies, when I get an older puppy that came in off a farm and I'm just like, oh boy, we've missed the socialization window. And, the fear, stranger danger is the hardest, right? So yeah, I mean, those are the heartbreakers. It's probably why most of my board members have like 8 dogs at their houses. you know,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a few of them at the rescue, but again, I can't fill the rescue with unadoptable dogs, or then we're not a rehabilitation center.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some old ones that are going to probably just age out, eventually. Now we are making some difficult decisions. We will do behavioral euthanasia on them, not for space, but if we see the dog deteriorating, they're hard. It's a real hard call. My staff pours their heart and souls into these dogs. We work so hard with them, and we love every one of them. And if the dog really isn't going to be adoptable in the States or couldn't do the flight, then yeah, we do look for local adoptions, but there's a less savvy adopter population here than it is in the States. So again, I can't really be adopting out really difficult dogs to the local people either. Occasionally we find that hermit on the mountain, but there's not many of them.
Right. Yeah.
I euthanized 2 dogs this summer. Nicola knows because Nicola helped us with this litter. And when they hit social maturity, one went really, really, really shy, much shyer, and the other one had such severe barrier frustration and redirected aggression on the other dogs that he couldn't really exist with the dogs up at the rescue, and
Mm-hmm.
they just were not adoptable. So it wasn't like they were dangerous to people. It wasn't like they'd ever inflicted a terrible bite.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking at, 12 years with these dogs, and they were affecting negatively the life of the other dogs at the rescue.
Right.
So, yeah, they're tough decisions. I mean, we all cried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if people, I think sometimes people also forget about the animal side of it, right? Which obviously you guys don't. That's 12 years of them living and feeling like that, feeling in that immense fear that,
Yeah.
you as a certified trainer and behavior consultant was just like, I can't, there's only so much you can do to help them. And some of this is very ingrained genetically. Everybody's always like, oh, nature, nurture, which one, and you can fix everything, but you can't,
You can't.
So I think really being able to look at the big view and think ahead for this animal's future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah, and we use medication, like we have a vet that consults with us and helps us with behavioral meds. I mean, we're doing everything that we can do. And if we can't turn an animal around, I don't think it's realistic to expect an owner to. A savvy owner would never take that project on. And so you'd end up adopting the animal to somebody who's a green owner who doesn't have the experience at all. And it's not going to be good for the dog or the family.
Right,
So.
right. And that savvy owner is probably only savvy because they're like one of us who've taken in a dog before we knew what we were doing, and we're like, oh my god, what do I do? Now I have to go to school to be a dog trainer. So,
and I can say, Jennifer, I have another dog just like that. Do you want to adopt it?
No. Thank you. I've spent my time doing that. Next. Yeah. I want a puppy someday. Maybe. I don't know. Puppies are a lot of work though.
They are. They
So
are.
much work. They're cute and adorable, and that's how they get through puppyhood.
That's why we don't eat them.
Yes. Oh man. Awesome. Okay. So, what would you say that if you had to pick, let's say, three things that you would love for that animal welfare community within to think about and reevaluate and commit to, what do you think would be things that you would like to see? Like, if you were commander of the world and you could say, these are the three things that we're going to focus on as a community to help us move forward and truly help animals.
So for the animal welfare community, the people who are doing what we're doing, just get educated. Really, really, we need to be educated. I think far too many people are in rescue and not using best practices. And there's just so much bad information out there. And I think it's a real disservice to the animals, and it's definitely disservice to the families that are adopting. So definitely getting educated and getting qualified behavioral people on board to work with your animals. It's not the place for Susie who loves animals to come and volunteer. It's serious stuff. It's life and death for the animal. So I think all shelters and rescues, that's the first place that they seem to either be weak or they cut when they have problems, is the behavioral staff. And to me, it's the absolute most important group of people that are working with these animals. It's their best chance. And just setting everybody up for success. I really, this is probably a topic for another Facebook Live, but when I see some of the dogs that are coming in from overseas, especially, they're never going to be pet dogs, and they've just had so much trauma and they're not being prepared. And I think if we want people to keep rescuing and we want people to keep adopting rescue animals, we need to really step up our game and make sure that these animals are lovely family pets or lovely companion animals. And we need to put that base training in. People don't have the skills. So if the animal goes up already knowing how to learn and already with base training, it's going to integrate into the family with so many fewer bumps. Mm-hmm. And people are paying a fair ticket to adopt an animal, and then, they have to go out and get a trainer for $200 an hour or $150 an hour. It's a lot. And so they turn to the internet and they get bad information. And so I think, the best thing we can do for animals is really set them up, give them the best training that we can, and then adopter support. We've got to hold our adopters' hands. We've got to help them through that transition period where they go from like, well, I found this dog on Pet Finder and I kind of like her picture and her profile sounds cute. Let me try her out, to, oh my God, how did I live without this dog? She's like the best thing that ever happened to me. That's what we want, right? And we can get them there if you give them enough support and you normalize normal dog behavior and, you just empathize with them. I know puppies are hard. I know.
Yes, they take a lot of energy, that's for sure.
Yeah. I get so many adopters who say that they've adopted before and, the adoption agency closed the door and they walked out and they were like, oh, it's your problem now. And, they've really struggled. So I really think it's our obligation to help support the animals
Yeah.
and the adopters. And then I guess my third thing would be just stop trying to save them all. Um, you know, when we adopt out marginal animals, it's really damaging. It's huge repercussions, not just for that family. You know, their friends, their neighbors, their family members won't ever adopt. Um, it's just not ethical. We're outsourcing our euthanasia. It's not right. It's not fair.
Yeah.
So we have to make the hard decisions. We're doing the hard job, right?
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I've just had to help and hold too many hands where families have had to, they've reached out and said, to the place that they got the animal from, we need help. And they said, we can't help you. We're overwhelmed. Here's a list of our trainers that we recommend, who most of them are just hacks that have no idea what they're doing and then end up making the animal worse. And then if the animal is still in their home, they end up, coming, to somebody who has credentials or education. And then it's like we're there mopping up the mess and then having the hard talks with them that this is how long this is going to take. This is what you're going to have to do to change your life, your lifestyle. I recently had a really tough situation like that, where it was like, okay, your dog has some stranger danger issues that we don't have the triggers figured out yet, and you can't be taking her with you over to your friend's house. You can't be having parties and dinner parties and things like that. Like, that's just no longer an option, and we need to go slow. And it just took away that whole person's lifestyle, everything. And so it's, having been through it myself, oh, it's devastating, and it's lonely, and it's hard. So I just,
And it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking.
it is.
I mean, for the dogs we've even brought back, because I've brought, probably over the past 10 years, I've brought 5 dogs back because they just were not going to be workable. I mean, maybe I could have rehomed if I had a really, really good, strong network of trainers, but I do, but I can't afford, to board and train dogs for, months on end,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then hope to rehome. And a dog that has severe problems, it's hard to ask somebody to get involved with that dog. So I've brought them back, and I've actually either sanctuaried them or rehomed them with some of my board members, and they've got great lives, in real controlled environments. But that was hard enough for my adopters, who knew that the dogs were coming back and going to be loved and taken care of. And, we still send them pictures, and, they're still connected to those animals. To ask them to make that a possible decision to put the animal down, it's just not fair.
Yeah. What did you do before you had your education? Like, how did you reach out to trainers? Because that was one of your points, is to find
Yeah.
certified professional help. And there's I I feel I've got my personal opinions on that, having had many different people reach out to me. What did you find that helped you guys to find somebody, or did you not? And that's why you ended up going to school.
We really had a hard time. We really struggled with that. And that was one of my real dreams of joining the academy, was that I would be able to be part of a network of really well capacitated trainers that I would feel confident referring to. There's a couple of really good trainers in the Bay Area that I found. Coincidentally, I found out later, like 3 or 4 of them were already academy grads. But I would refer to them, and then if they couldn't take a case, or if they weren't in the area, they would refer me to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of get a secondhand referral. I would stock web pages, and when I started doing this, many trainers didn't have web pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I was lucky early on to find, Shoshi Parks, Shelley Leong, quite a few people in the Bay Area. What's her name? Oof. Maureen Beckman, some, some really good, solid trainers that could at least help me. And then we would send people to Petco or, those kind of training classes because they're usually okay, but I would try to find out who was teaching them.
Mhm.
It's hard. It's hard to source your trainers when you're 4,000 miles away.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's hard for rescues to source trainers even here because I
Yeah.
think they kind of have, many of them feel like they have to take what is presented to them
Yeah.
because they don't have resources. And us as professionals only have so much that we can do pro bono. It's because we get asked a lot, and of course we want to help, and yes, we love animals, but this is a really hard job, which I'm not sure if all of the rescue and shelter community always understand. So I hate having to say no to people, but I do personally have standards with who I'm going to work with. For me, it is if you can show me that you are committed to rewards based training or want to make that change, I will work with you. But I cannot work with you if you are also using the guy down the street who uses a shock collar and prong collars and is all into energy based training. I can't do that because every ounce of my heart that I put into these animals, I can't then find out later that they ended up with that person, knowing what damage can occur. So I think that's the hard part is people wanting, I want to help them, but that's the hard part for me.
Yeah, true. It is. Yeah, it's just a disconnect and it just doesn't, you got to save the trainer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. The
Yeah.
trainers that you did find, were you guys raising money to pay for the training, or were the adopters paying for the training? Like how were you helping them with that part?
We would usually pay, certainly if it was during the adoption, the trial adoption, which is flexible, right? It's as long as
Mhm.
it needs to be. Um, but that was sort of my whole point of we can't afford to send up dogs that are problematic. I have to send up my best dogs. I have to send up the dogs that are going to be easy because, the people donate to us, but they donate for our spay and neuter programs, right?
Mhm.
And so I really can't spend that money on things like, you know, American cost training, right? And good trainers are expensive, and they should be because they spend a lot of money on their education, right? They know what
Mhm.
they're doing, they're professionals.
Right.
So yeah, we would pay for it. I have several trainers that have come to visit us or love us and they give us a bit of a discount, a 20% discount or something.
Mhm.
But we pay. I mean, it's we're paying for service, right?
Mhm.
So yeah. And then if the owner wants to go on with the trainers, great. Then they can take it. But usually just a class or two and they're fine with the
Mhm.
dog,
Yeah.
because they don't have major behavior problems.
Right.
And
Right.
then I offer the stuff free too. I mean, I support them for free. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Good.
and it's effective. It's effective. Zoom stuff is effective.
It is. I think people are starting to realize how effective it is when they didn't have any other options. It's
Yeah.
amazing what you can accomplish together because really it's not just about the animals. A lot of it has to do with the human part of it, right? And helping them to understand how their dogs learn and how to communicate with them effectively. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, there's
Yeah.
so much you can do online. Makes me really happy that we have that ability.
Yeah.
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 Um, well, what was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or does anybody here that's watching? Thank you, everybody who's watching. Do you guys have questions for Linda at all? Ooh, I've got one here that I can pop over. that was asked earlier before you joined us.
I'm so sorry I was late.
That's okay. So, when interviewing potential families for behaviorally challenged dogs, what is the one thing you look for in a home? Them understanding the behavior and how to manage it, or a good environment like a yard, a fence, etc.
Victoria, can you be more specific for behaviorally challenged? That's pretty broad. Because I've already said, like, we don't send up dogs that have really bad behavior problems. But if you're thinking like, I'm thinking shy and going to run away type of thing. So with that, I would let the family know that this dog needs really careful management. I would send it up with a freedom harness, good secure harness, well fitted, because I don't trust families to fit them properly. And we go over how to put it on carefully before the dog arrives. I'd have another volunteer that I know and trust that handles dogs, meet them at the airport. I always do that anyway. And bring the dog out, and I would give them good instruction on decompressing, safety, right? A flat buckle collar with a leash and another leash on the harness, not taking the harness off for the first few days. So I get the dog comfortable wearing it and not chewing it before it flew. And just talk about flight risk and enclosed dog parks and stuff like that. But, shy would probably be the only thing that they'd have to, you don't want them bolting, right?
Right.
Our dogs are all chipped too, so that, they go up chipped in case there was something that happened, and they go up with a tag. So,
Gotcha.
I don't know.
I believe you also have a manual that you have
Yeah.
for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I send up a behavioral manual that's online that kind of just goes over the whole first, getting ready for your dog, setting up and what you're going to need. And it links to Jean Donaldson's Train Your Dog Like a Pro video. And I explain to people that that's how we train our dogs. And so they can, just refer back to that and enrichment stuff. So they have all that. We usually have at least one Zoom, sometimes two, before the dog arrives. Because they get nervous right before the dog arrives. People get really nervous and they're like, "Oh, did I get the right thing?"
Right. So, it is such a big decision. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good. And Victoria says yes. That's what she was asking. Yep. Good.
Yeah. Because we know our dogs really, really well. So if they have any kind of, quirk like that, we really go over it carefully with the family. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where I think that's maybe a little bit where your rescue is different, because you guys are focusing on young animals that you can very easily help. Well, I wouldn't say easily. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, but that you can they have less baggage already, where you can help them to prepare for the new home versus a dog who's been living on the streets for 5 years.
Puppies, yeah. The adult dogs, we do send up adult dogs, but again, they have to be nice dogs. We can't send up dogs that are dog aggressive, or we just don't. But we do send up adults. I think one of the misconceptions of street dogs, and that's sort of a blanket term that we use for dogs all over, free roaming dogs in every country. But they're very, very different. It's not one population. And so what I would call a street dog here actually is quite nuanced. They're free roaming dogs. 95% of them have homes. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, they're free roaming because it's not the culture here to keep your dog in, or you don't have a fence. They're poor people. You have no way to keep the dog in. But the dogs wander all day and then they go home at night. So really 95 probably % of the dogs in my area have homes. They might be crummy homes, but they have homes. And then there's probably 3% that are actually feral, that are living free on farms. They technically have owners, but nobody touches them and nobody works with them, and they just breed. Okay, so they're pretty spooky and hard to catch, and they're the ones that we try to trap, neuter, and release, mark them. And we try to pull their puppies because that's just a cycle, right?
Hmm.
But they're doing fine, right? They're fine loose. And then we do have maybe 1% that are community dogs. So they were pets. People, when they don't want their dog anymore, will load them in the back of a pickup, drive 3 villages over, and just dump the dog and leave it. Okay. You can tell these dogs right away because the local dogs are driving them off and not being very nice to them. They're very confused. Most of the time, they don't know anything about traffic, right? Those are the dogs that we'll try to pick up because they're just lost. But if they do settle in a community and the community starts feeding them, they become community dogs. And those dogs do just fine. People are watching out for them. So we vaccinate and we spay and we make sure we deworm and, we talk to some of the people in the community and we all kind of keep an eye on them. And then we only see those dogs with problems if they get hit by a car or, somebody poisons them or something like that.
Hmm.
But our street dogs all have owners. And then if they get sick, if they get mange, the owners just abandon them. They don't want them anymore. So that's kind of where we end up with a lot of our dogs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, it's quite
But they're not,
different than the street dogs in, say, India.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
different. Yeah.
Probably even parts of India are different,
Hmm.
like, yeah. So the Latin American dogs are mostly that. They're just out. They're just
Hmm.
out and about. And they have very rich lives. It's fun. It's fun raiding garbage cans and chasing cars and stuff like that. But there's
Right.
an element of risk.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. But it sounds like the community will take them in and accepts them as part of the community, and they don't like actively try to make them go away.
It depends where and how, and depends on the dog, and depends on the numbers. So, some communities, the villages in the highlands, for example, if they have too many dogs, they've traditionally just gone through and poisoned them, right?
Hmm.
They'll go to the garbage dump and lay poison and kill everybody's dog, right? It's illegal now, and there's animal welfare laws, and it's happening a lot less. But what we try to do in our community is we educate the communities, the mayors, the powers that be, that having spayed, neutered, and vaccinated dogs that live in an area keep the other dogs out, right? So it's more of a stable population. They
Hmm.
don't share the resources with the incoming dogs. So it's a known population and it's just safer. And we can all live together in a nice sort of symbiosis. And it works pretty well in Antigua.
That's awesome. It sounds a lot like the spay and neuter for feral cats when
Yes.
yeah, yeah, where it's encouraging farmers to get, bring them in, get them done, allow them to be then released back onto their farm. 'Cause they do have benefits for the farmers, but it's just, they certainly get to be too many and then they get unhealthy and yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do they do the tipping just like they do with
Um,
cats, or is it
so
a
if
tattoo?
Yeah, so I don't know what other groups do. Everyone's supposed to mark the dogs, and
Mhm.
they don't because we've opened tattoo. So we tattoo the incision, the spay incision, and we tattoo the ear,
Mhm.
inside the ear. And we use green ink and an E, which means esterilizado. If the dogs are feral and we can't catch them, if we don't think we're going to be able to catch them again, then we actually clip a third of their ear off and cauterize it
Mhm.
so that we can see at a distance.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's just like we did for the feral cats. Yeah.
yeah,
Because then you don't have to put them under that stress again, and, to capture them. And yeah, for sure.
yeah. We don't want to even waste the time to try to catch them again.
No, no. Ugh, I don't, yeah. I've spent a lot of time with feral cats and getting them out of cat carriers and yes, and back in again. Not fun.
Not fun. Not
No,
fun.
no, no. Well, Amy's got something here for us. I think it's I'll read it to you because I don't know if you can see it very well. So, hi, Linda. It sounds like you were very transparent with the doctors. I've noticed that our local shelter is quite vague, and I don't understand why because it seems to set up families and the dogs to fail. can you explain a bit about your handover process? How much time do you spend with the new family helping them to get adjusted to the dog?
Yeah, so physically, I spend no time with the new family because I'm in Guatemala. But I do have a couple of long-term volunteers up in the Bay that are really, really nice. And we have a foster and adopter group, a Facebook group, and many of our adopters get together for dog walks or meets. They'll babysit dogs. It's a real nice supportive group. So they've got that support. And I'll spend as much time as a family wants with getting the dog settled in with Zoom calls and email support. Whatever they need, I'll do it for them. Absolutely. And we're really, really transparent, and we want them to have as much detail as we can, because the fewer surprises you have, the easier it is to adjust to the dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want them to have, I do a write-up on every single dog, and we talk about them in detail. And I often have the dog with me during a Zoom conversation right here. And, I'll, interact with the dog. So that, we'll do videos so that they can see the dog. Because it is a long distance Tinder, right?
Yeah, right.
You're
And
not really
Amy,
going to,
yeah, and Amy lives in Bermuda, so I'm
oh yeah,
sure,
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so everything for Amy is also Tinderish when it comes to animals, I'm sure. Because
Amy, are you adopting within or are you doing international adoptions too?
let's see. I think one of the I think I feel like I remember from my conversations with Amy. We'll wait for her to respond. But it seems that many people on Bermuda are getting their animals from breeders, and I think it's one of the reasons why Amy put time and effort into making such a great breeder guide to help people know how to search for a good breeder. And Amy's answer was local.
Uh,
Yes. So it sounds like the dogs that are being adopted out are locally being adopted out rather than shipped out. Yeah.
So when I have local adoptions, I also offer support. Pre-COVID, I did a lot in person. If they're puppies, they still come to our puppy day on Saturday if people want to bring them, right? And we have a Friday puppy social as well with all age dogs. So if they're local in my town, then yeah, we do a lot. And if they need hands-on help, I'll go and support them.
Mhm.
If they're in the city, I usually ask them to try to come to me because it can be 3 hours each way for me to drive to the city and back. It's too much. So,
Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Great, great. Well, I appreciate all the time you took to talk with us tonight. It's really interesting to get to know each different shelter and rescue setup because they are each very individual. So learning about the different ways that you have taken on the challenges of helping the animal community in your area is just fabulous. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. And I am so sorry I was late. I totally screwed up it's the daylight saving time is what it
Oh,
is.
that's okay. That's okay. I floundered a little bit by myself, but I hope we kept we kept most of the peeps. And I'll tell in the recording, I'll let people know where they can start so they don't have to listen to me.
Oh, I'm really sorry, Jennifer. I thought I was like half an hour early.
No, no, that's all right. That's all right. Okay, well, thank you so much, and I will see you soon again when we talk again next time on Zoom.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Thank you. And I will have Victoria add in the link to your website that if anybody who's here today who is interested in learning more about the work that Linda and her crew do, and you'll also see the different options if you have the ability to donate towards them, they would appreciate that so they can continue their fabulous work focusing on spay neuter and supporting you can even choose specific animals to choose to support to help them along. So Awesome. Victoria shared that with everybody, so that is there. All right, thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, so thank you everybody who's joined us. As usual, feel
That
free
was
to
lovely.
type in and ask any questions that you may have, or comments, and we are sure to go back and reply, and we will definitely tag Linda if there's anything specifically for Linda. And next week is our monthly open question and answer. So we take in questions early so that if you send them in early, we're able to definitely get them on the top of the roster. But we also take questions live. So we would love to have you guys join us. The email there below is team@Wag the Dog and Company for you guys to email ahead of time. And thank you so much. Have a good Monday, everybody. All right, bye bye.